Hello, my name is Lindy Mitchell Nilsson and I'm an oral storyteller and sometimes author. And I'm very delighted to have a fairy tale included in the anthology South of the Sun. Now today I'm going to tell you a story, well it's going to be an Australian story, but I'm actually standing in a Swedish forest. So I hope you enjoy my story. It's Jack and the Beanstalk and the NBN. And I decided to write this story when I found out that one of the first ever written recordings of this story was back in the 1800s in Australia. And I thought, I wonder what Jack and his mother would look like now in the Australian landscape. So this is my story. Once upon a time, long ago, way out beyond the black stump, there lived a mother and her son. Alas, the pair had fallen on hard times. You see, the mother was a single mother and she'd been on Newstart, and her son Jack, well, he was one of the chronically underemployed rural youth. And Centrelink had stopped their payments. They'd lost their paperwork, and when they tried to ring them, they never answered the telephone, and the local Centrelink office had been closed down and moved to a town far away. They had not the means to get there. Of course, they could always go online, except for the fact that NBN had recently been put on. And since the NBN had been put on, they had no internet access at all. Because we all know that the NBN is rubbish. Well, there was nothing for them to do really except sell the family cow. And sadly, Jack's mother said, "Jack, take the cow to town and sell her, but make sure you get a good price for her, Jack, and don't forget to add on the GST." Jack, being a good lad, set off early the next morning. He was walking down that dusty potholed road when it wasn't long before he met a strange-looking bloke. The bloke looked at Jack and looked at the cow and thought, what are you doing, son?" Taking the cow to market to sell, sir." "I've got some beans. Would you trade it for some beans, son?" Well, you know, if Jack had had a father, a good upstanding father, his father might have said to him, "What? Trade a cow for some beans? Tell him he's dreaming, son." But alas, Jack had no upright, moral father figure in his life, and so he said, "Okay, give me an extra bean for the GST." So Jack went home with his fist clutching 6 beans. I don't need to tell you that his mother was madder than a cut snake when he arrived home, and she threw those beans straight out the window. But a strange thing happened overnight. Those beans grew at an amazing, an alarming rate. They grew and they grew and they grew. Why, it was as if those beans were genetically modified. Well, when Jack awoke the next morning, he ran outside, saw the beanstalk, and thought, "Woohoo!" He popped on his thongs and was about to climb when all of a sudden, out from behind the beanstalk stepped a man with a hard hat and a high-vis jacket and a clipboard. "Oh, listen here, son, what do you think you're doing? You're not going to climb that beanstalk there with just your thongs on. Where's your safety equipment? And have you done a risk assessment? And where's your working with height certificate?" Well, sadly, Jack had gumption, but none of the other requirements, and "Well, I'm afraid, son, you won't be climbing that beanstalk today." Then Jack remembered. He remembered that his deadbeat dad had left a whole shed full of woodsman equipment from his days working in the woods. a risk assessment. Well, difficulty thought that there has to be a finite number of ways that a giant could kill you. But the working with height certificate, now that was impossible because it was online. And we all know that the NBN is... Well, if you'd like to hear the rest of the story, you'll actually have to go and buy the book, South of the Sun. So I hope you enjoy it. Goodbye from Sweden.